Hello again, team. Welcome back to the Phil Shomo Coaching Podcast. If you're a regular here, it's good to have you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And all of you, I'd love to have you subscribe to my podcast channels or to my YouTube channel and maybe pass it along, recommend it to somebody that you think would gain some benefit from it. The focus on all of these interviews that I'm doing is this idea of forever learning, that there's always something more for us to learn and grow in, another way for us to get better. And the focus of what I do, obviously, is within the context of mental skills training, or what I like to call human skills. This ability to manage ourselves, to navigate pressure situations, to learn how to control our emotions, to discipline our thinking, to enhance our concentration and our attention on the task at hand. And so all of these interviews are designed in one way or another to enhance that possibility for all of us and to grow in that way. And I know I am learning just a ton from these things. And I'm so grateful that you're taking the time to listen or watch. Today, I'm diving back into the world of the small college coach. And as I've said before, I think there's just an enormous untapped resource with coaches in the small college world who really very sacrificially and selflessly, in many ways, give themselves to their sport and to their players for the sake of generally very pure motives and reasons. They want their players to grow. They want the game to be enhanced, but they really want the players to have the kind of impact through their athletic experience that can really help shape their entire future life. And today's interview is with a guy that I met a while back, have only chatted with briefly, and was really looking forward to having an extended conversation, and he did not disappoint. Jeremy SHEETINGER is my guest today. Everybody calls him Sheets. And Sheets is the head baseball coach at Georgia Gwinnett College in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And Georgia Gwinnett is a monster baseball program in the NAIA baseball world. Top 2-3 program in the country, incredible facilities. I mean, just jaw-dropping facilities, and just an amazing, amazing, amazing program. And Jeremy was kind enough to agree to this interview. So I'll give you just a little bit of his background. Jeremy grew up in Frankfort, Kentucky. Huge basketball fan. We talk about that a little bit and joke around that at the beginning. A lot of fun. He played baseball at Kentucky Wesleyan, and he's had a lot of years of coaching in the NAIA and Division II world. Jeremy was also the director of baseball operations at the University of Kentucky for the Kentucky Wildcats for 3 years. He spent 4 years as the college division liaison for the ABCA. The ABCA is the American Baseball Coaches Association, enormous network of coaches. And Jeremy will chat about that a little bit in this interview. And Jeremy's also been an associate scout with the Atlanta Braves since 2015, which has just enhanced his experiences enormously. Jeremy is just, it's hard to even comprehend all of the things that he's involved in. He's involved online in ways that are just mind-boggling. He's the creator and producer of the ABCA Roadshow and Extra Innings video features. He's involved in the Stick and Ball TV podcast or TV streaming services that are provided for coaches at all different levels of baseball. And Jeremy's also has a podcast called Dugout Chatter, and Jeremy's engaged in all of those. As you're going to learn from this interview, Jeremy is such a likable guy, such an engaging guy, has great stories, but also has incredible insights. And I'm excited to share this interview with you. I think you're going to get a lot out of this. And I think this interview is going to be something you're going to want to pen, paper. Jeremy just gives both passion from the heart challenges, but also just kind of some amazing ideas and ways that you can enhance your coaching, your life, or your performance if you're an athlete. I'm excited for you. Let's listen to Sheets. All right, welcome everybody. It is so good to be back again for my emphasis on forever learning. I am pleased and excited today to have a guy that I've known a little bit and been watching from afar for a while, Jeremy SHEETINGER. And I hear you say this, man. You tell people Sheets is fine, so I'm going with Sheets.
Please do. I always drop. Debt collectors call me Jeremy. That's why I hang the phone up really quick on people.
All right, we'll
It's
go
like Prince.
Sheets.
It's one name, Sheets. Can't mess it up.
So Sheets is the head baseball coach at Georgia Gwinnett College in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and deep in the baseball world. He spent a lot of time with the American Baseball Coaches Association on staff. Sheets, I mean, I've got a lot of non-baseball people involved here. My understanding is that is like a massive, world's largest coaches organization. True?
Yeah, it's pretty neat that I got into it as a player. My college coach comes back from his first ABCA and he says, "Hey, the one thing you're going to do if you're going to coach is you're going to be a member of the ABCA." And he just got back from his convention, and at that time it was 3,000 or so coaches, and I become a member. Throughout my entire coaching spell, I've been a member to get the opportunity to come on staff and work in the national office. And during that 4-year stretch, we saw a 200% increase in growth as a member. So now we're up to
Wow.
13,000 members. We went from our biggest convention ever at that point was, I think, 4,500, and we just had 7,100 attend in Nashville. And to see the growth of it, and so yeah, you get a chance to be part of that coaches group and your access to people, and that's why the platforms that we were able to build, and the outreach and the ability to build some of those friendships. But it was really taken Phil. It took an association, and under our new leadership, and then I think my position helped kind of curtail some of this. Is we had a chance to take for lack of a better way of saying it, an archaic association. A lot of our demographics were a little older. Our platforms were a little less than modern. I'm saying all this affectionately. And we had a
Careful
chance,
words there.
but we had a chance to come in there and do some unique things and put some youthful spirit behind it and open ourselves up to a new level of coaching and coaches. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I mean, to serve, I'll say this, man, to work for that association is where I learned servant leadership. I had a chance to serve our board of directors and serve our, at that time, 11,000 coaches around the world. And that's when I really started to figure out what that really meant and then how to gain fulfillment from it. So it was an awesome opportunity. Yeah.
Well, I love the language. Servant leadership is in some ways maybe an overused word, but there's no really better way to say it. Like that
No,
is
it's
it is
not.
such a great phrase. And even just though you and I have not known each other much, you're not a hard guy to like pick up on. So Sheets
Sure.
is involved in Stick and Ball TV, which is a
Yeah.
streaming service, big time streaming stuff. You've got Dugout Chatter podcast.
Yeah.
You got Twitter followers approaching. Close your ears because I heard you say the other day on an interview you don't even want to know.
I don't even want
18,000,
to. Yeah.
and Facebook at 5,000. And it is this. You're just all over the place, man. So I'll just tell everybody a little bit. So we have I have a coaching friend that I've interviewed on my podcast. My very first interview ever was with my dear friend Justin Brown, who was coaching at Toccoa Falls College this past year. They played at Georgia Gwinnett against Sheets' team, and Justin had invited me, since it was over in the Atlanta area and I was in that area for some work. He invited me to come be in the dugout with his guys, and I'd been doing a lot of work with his team all throughout both the fall and the spring. And that's how we first met.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a lot of fun. So I'm gonna, in baseball. So there's this thing, you would know this as a coach. You would be all over this. So the home to first time with a stopwatch. What do you think is the fastest clock you've ever gotten on somebody? Home to first.
Well, we had a player at the University of Kentucky that ran on my watch, ran a 3.78. And that is what we would call a plus runner. That is a elite level runner. I think the fastest they've gotten in Major League Baseball, there's been a couple guys that have been like 3.55 from the
Yeah.
left side, which is just extraordinary.
Yeah, I actually looked this up to see. Statcast says that Jose Altuve from the Astros was at 3.33. And it was the fastest they had clocked since 2015. So here's the reason I bring it up. So Sheets and I meet. Justin introduces us. Sheets, you're home to first time on the likability scale, 3.48.
Perfect. That's awesome. I trust me. That is, to me, that's a high compliment. I really do. I really appreciate
Plus,
that.
plus, plus.
That's
And
awesome.
so I had to do some. This guy hit my buttons right out of the gate. We're standing out on the field before the game talking. I was just like, man, I like this dude. I gotta go find out some stuff about this guy. And
Sure.
so I done a little research on you. We have a lot of affinity, man. You don't even know some
I
things
love
you
it.
don't even know. So you grew up in Kentucky,
Yes, sir.
and basketball was your world
No
before
doubt.
baseball.
Yes, it was.
I grew up in Anderson, Indiana, and basketball in Indiana is better than it is in Kentucky.
So they say, except when you start counting national championships. But they do say that IU.
I
Yeah, I get it.
knew,
I
I
get
knew
it.
it would work. I knew it would work. And so here's our affinity. You and I both grew up. We're not even anywhere close to the same age. So this is why it's so bizarre. We're almost like twins.
Sure.
So we both grew up believing that there was a spot in the NBA for a 6 foot, slightly stocky,
Stocky.
um,
Husky is what my grandmother called it. But yeah.
husky was the category of
Sure.
clothing in the store we
Yes,
could
it
go buy.
was. At Sears and Roebuck, Husky. I spent a lot of time in the Husky section, which I didn't understand at the time. That was my body frame. Yeah, yeah,
I was sure that I think I read somewhere you thought you'd be a point guard. I was sure I was going to be a shooting guard, so we could have locked down the
yes, we
backcourt.
could have. I literally and my wife, she's like, "There's no way." I said, "You just don't understand the way that you come into becoming a man. You spend a lot of time in your driveway. You spend
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
time shooting hoops. I
Oh my
threw
goodness.
so many behind the back passes into our shrubs. That was like my thing. We had 3 shrubs that went up our steps, and that was
Wow.
Worthy, and that was Cooper, and that was Byron Scott. And I would be able to go behind the back and drop them in their laps. And again, here's this little chubby white kid throwing them into the shrubs and pulling them out and trying it all over again.
Clearly, magic sheets. There we
There's
go.
no doubt
So
that
it
was
was.
my dude. That's why I wore 32 for so long. I thought I was Magic Johnson. That's a fact.
Oh man. So yeah, I could there's no this is no lie, and anybody who grew up in the world you and I grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
we could lose ourselves for days
Unbelievable.
in just talking about basketball, high school basketball,
Sure.
college basketball, pro basketball,
Uh,
all that stuff from back in those days. So we're going to push on. So as I
Round
mentioned,
episode 2, we'll go into more of the basketball stuff. Go ahead. Yeah, we'll stay on some baseball for right now.
oh man. So yeah, that never gets old to me.
I
So
love
as
it.
I said, forever learning is kind of a big emphasis to me, and I try to build that in to anybody I'm working with, and I'm excited to learn some stuff from you today. I started using this phrase. It's one of these. I'm sure you have these. I think I got this somewhere, and I honestly don't know where, so I can't credit
Sure.
anybody. But I
Sure.
want to make sure nobody thinks I'm smart enough to think this up. So my my phrase is that success and failure actually leave a trail of breadcrumbs that mark the path if we know how to look for them.
Babe.
And
Yep.
I know that you've got a lot of both experience and insight and wisdom, and I'm excited to dig into that a little bit. So let's just get rolling with
Sure.
talking about some coaching stuff. So tell me something that you love about coaching now. So Sheets is at Georgia Gwinnett, and just for context, I'll give a little bit of intro and some of the bio here, but in case people skip the intro. So Georgia Gwinnett is a top program. I mean, top 2, 3 program in the country in NAIA baseball. And Sheets took the head coaching job there. I think it'll be a year this July. Is
Year.
that
Yeah.
right?
Coming up on it. Yeah.
Coming
Yeah.
up on a year. So you are in that upper echelon of the NAI division, and I've been there. Your facilities are D1. I mean, probably even good D1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
like,
Very blessed here.
like it is crazy. So tell me something you love about coaching now, especially as it relates to influencing young men, that's maybe different than you thought it would be when you first got into it. Like when you projected out there how cool coaching would be.
Yeah.
What's the reality that you're like, man, I had no idea this part that I would love this part so much.
That's a great question. It kind of goes back to what you and I were talking about before we hit record, is that I spent 11 years before I took my little 4-year sabbatical. I spent 11 years across all levels of the game. And honestly, and I've talked openly about this, and Phil, you hopefully appreciate this. I speak very transparently. I usually don't hold much back. I think that's a good place of vulnerability, but also there's some growth to be found there. And every time I talk about it, I start to internalize it a little bit differently each time. But to short version it, I spent 11 years coaching for me. So the one thing that I think I
Mm.
went into coaching, I'm sorry, I went into it from a very early age. My little league coach, my 12-year-old little league coach, changed the trajectory of my life. And I was fortunate enough to play for him as a 13-year-old and as a 14-year-old. And he changed everything, so much so that at 15, my dad asked me what I wanted to do. And I told him I wanted to coach. And I had great high school coaches. And I think I got into it because I revered coaches. I revered that, honestly, that authority, the place of authority. And it wasn't as much about the game per se. It was more of the ability to compete and control a team, and from that position of again, authority.
Yeah,
And
gotcha.
because I went into it with that mindset, I think I got really derailed on the highway towards ego and towards career growth and wins and losses. And if we win a championship, I'll be able to get whatever job I want. If I get whatever job I want, one day I'll make enough money to literally drive down the street and kind of hanging out the sunroof. Like, I mean, I just think everything was driven career wise and very transactional. So I think the one thing, as we were talking earlier, the one thing that break gave me was a chance, like I mentioned, to understand servant leadership. And then when this opportunity came about, I knew that it could be part of a really special program with a lot of winning tradition in a short amount of time, and one that has, I think, I call it a sleeping giant. I don't think we've even capitalized or come close to the depth at which we can again win and build that tradition. So I just look at it as this, man. I think before, what's changed and where I've shifted is the focus on me, and I've really landed at a place the focus is on our players. And that seems very cliche and it seems very topical, but the depth of that would be that every day I wake up, it's what can I do today to enhance the experience of our student athletes? What message can I give them today that maybe alters the trajectory of their life, maybe changes the way that they view things? What in today's training, what in my interactions, what in, I hug each player before every training session and before every game. We use the word trust a lot in our program. We use the word love. I tell my guys I love them every opportunity that I have. And that's changed. That focus of, I want to make sure that the environment we create here is a safe place, but it's one where it is person, student, then player. It is always driven by the person. It's always the human element of what we're doing here. And I think coaching in that spirit, in my mind, has removed me away from, I'll be honest with you, I don't care if we win or lose. And that's is so distant from who I was that the old me just rolled over in its grave. Like, but I don't care about that. I think if you buy into, the process, which again is a cliche word, but if you take it as cliche, it means you haven't dove in deep enough. Because if you adopt that mentality and that lifestyle and you re-engineer your mind in process-oriented thinking, you don't care about the win or the loss. You care about the journey. You care about the path that you've set these players on. And last thing I'll say is this, Phil, is that I've landed a place. I told you we were working on the field,
Yeah.
and we got done edging, and I started dragging the infield. And I've said this a lot on interviews. I've said it in front of our team, but I really need to continue to explore the reach of where this can go. Because I think ultimately, as a coach, and the way that I approach this team, if we can lead in a way that they land at a place where they have the courage to go out and attack life and literally act on their own thoughts and ideas. Like, imagine how beautiful that would be, that they
Oh
leave
yeah.
your
My.
program and there's such a confidence level, there's such a level of investment. There is, again, courage. What a great word, where they really feel like at 22, 23 years old, they can go out and make decisions and follow their own path, their own dreams, and not feel like they need to even check around them. They go out with the confidence to do that. That's what we want. I'm still trying to figure that out sometimes at 39. but we want to help them figure it out at 22, 23. And that's the essence of coaching for me.
Wow. Well, I got the pen and the pad, man. I'm taking notes here because I love some of the language you just used, and attack life and building courage and vulnerability into the same equation,
Yeah.
which really does resonate with me. Makes a lot of sense. So, well, I want to go a little even further with the players and how you approach them, because you're talking so much cliche-ish kind of stuff
Sure. Yeah.
that I know a lot of people, maybe even a lot of coaches, a lot of players, like, yeah, or like, this dude's just become like a master interviewer. And I know, because we have a mutual friend and I've done a good bit of listening to your stuff. I think you're putting believability on the cliches. So I wanna dig on that a little bit.
Sure.
So I'm going to give you some of your words, okay? These are your words.
Awesome.
I found some of your words. Here we go.
Phil, this is awesome.
So Sheet said, I think this was in front of a bunch of coaches, I spent the first 4 weeks teaching our guys, number 1, expectations of the program, number 2, what my lines in the sand were, number 3, who I expected them to be, and number 4, who I was going to help them become. And when I heard you say that, the question that popped into my head was, there's this, okay, I'll frame it this way. So you're a Kentucky guy. Mm-hmm. I've heard John Calipari, Kentucky's basketball coach, reference this before. He gets all the McDonald's All-Americans. They've got this incredible elite program, Kentucky, Duke, and Kansas, and North Carolina. They get these elite of elites. He talks about the challenge of taking elite players into a program like Kentucky. And in some ways, in the NAIA baseball, you're doing that now with Gwinnett. You're bringing these players in, and at a certain level, they are sort of all that by getting there. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a little different in your environment, but this whole idea of what Calipari speaks to, my words for it are, it's this wild blend of build them up and at the same time sort of break them down. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean break them down in an abusive kind of way. I mean kind of bring that element of humility, teachability, coachability, all of those things that are going to put them in the place to attack life and to be the kind of young men you hope for them to be. So my question is, when you're talking about who you expect them to be and who you're going to help them become, what's the balance in you, or what's some of even the tools, techniques? How do you approach this? Keep building them up, because you're just so positive all the time, but also you're so honest. I'm gonna bring honesty in a way that isn't always going to be easy. So how do you look at the build up, breakdown side of coaching as an absolutely necessary tool for what you're doing in their lives?
I'm going to do my best not to cry, because you got me on the edge of emotion here, man.
Let's go. Come on.
Yeah, I love it. I really do. I love I love my guys, man. I love my players in a way that, honestly, I really, hopefully I get to the crux of your question, man, but I really think that they have to, at times, as a leader, you've got to let people see you at your best, and you've got to let them see you at your worst. And I think if you're talking about authenticity, which to me is an extremely high compliment, if you're talking about honesty, I'm trying to remove that little piece of our language where we say, hey, well, let me be honest with you. Well, you should be honest the whole time. I'm trying to remove that from my lexicon. But it's almost, at times it's bluntness, but it's with tact. I mean, I think our guys get that. If you really want to know where you stand, if you really want to have an honest conversation, man, it's kind of the way I'm engineered. It's really all I know at this point, because I will let you know in front of our team, hey man, you got out coached in that game. Hey, sometimes you got to outplay bad coaching, and that's allowing them to see that. I think as coaches, I hope I get to your question, man. I got a lot of thoughts, emotions going.
You're all over it. You're all over it. Keep going.
I think as a coach, sometimes, number one, we forget how hard the game is. Yeah. I think we do not give enough credit to the fact that, especially now, it's a much different animal than when I played. When I played, we faced, a couple guys that were 90, 92, and And now we have a pitching staff this year with recruiting that we have 21 arms, and 14 of the 21 are 88 to 95. So like we're going to be able to. It's where the game is gone, and it'd be way too easy for me as the chubby dude in the dugout to go, I can't believe you guys aren't getting hits. I can't believe you're not hitting this guy. I can't believe we're not scoring enough runs, when there's this place of, man, you got to pull back from that and realize the game's tough. You also have to pull back as a coach and realize that they are 18 to 22. And if I had to stand in front of you today, Phil, and you laid out all the times that I failed, not only in baseball, but in life at 18 to 22, I don't want you to go through that list from a week ago, let alone when I was too immature to understand. So
there you go.
I think I try to help our guys see that we're both on the same journey. I'm the most imperfect person in every room I walk into, and I'm also willing to talk about it. And I think for our guys, I can stand in classroom, which I'll get back to, and I can talk through some pretty vulnerable conversations and some real thoughts that I'm having, and some real conversations. And we addressed things in front of our team with certain players that, I had players come up afterwards like, Coach, man, nobody has said that to him in 3 years. And you find it, he's like, I can't believe you had the guts to do this. It's not about guts. It's about, that's the place we're going to lead from. We're going to lead. Hey, there is no conversation that we can't talk about in front of our team. There is no stone that we won't unturn. If it shows that there could be some development there, we're going to turn that thing over. So I think where you go back to is like, as a coach, and our players, I was talking with obviously a lot of them this summer, especially during the coronavirus quarantine. And a couple of them said, Coach, it's just like having an older brother in the dugout because you're one of us. And I said, the beauty of that statement is that's the environment that I'd like to have, is that you guys realize that I'm 39 and you're 22 and we're both on the same journey. I just got a 17-year head start, but I'm screwing up every day. And I am challenging myself to grow each and every day. And I am making mistakes, and I'm doing some things right. And I'm figuring out who I am. And I'm starting to understand who I want to be as a father and as a husband, and then as a coach and as a leader, and as a staff member, as an employee. I'm still trying to figure those things out. And so I never hold our guys to the standard of perfection. And so I think when you can remove yourself from that train of thinking that they have to train perfect, and every game we have to be perfect, and in every scenario at off campus, on campus, they're going to be perfect. They're not, just like I'm not. And so anyway, I think back to your point, I think that place to me is it's a very, I'll say this, I don't think many coaches get there. I really don't. And that's just from conversations I have, and as many as I've had through the podcast, and the ones I surround myself have gotten past, like over that hurdle to a place of self-awareness, which is a thing I pray for each and every day. And I'm starting to understand patience, which again, the old me is just rolling over.
Come on now.
Impatient dude in the world. But I'll give you an example. I don't go on a tangent, but I'll give you an example. So when I was a first-year head coach at the Division III I was at, my first practice, I felt like if we won that practice, we were going to win the national championship. And I coached in that spirit, and that was just what I knew that I needed to do to move in my career. And I came into this scenario, and I think it helped that they had won so many games. I didn't have to change everything, but I needed to change some things. We needed to build a stronger culture. We needed a better player to coach to player dynamic. We needed a better communication throughout. We talk about crystal clear communication. So we don't just leave gray area out there. I try to nth degree it and then simplify it and get our guys to understand this is exactly what I'm asking for. This is exactly what our expectations are. And I think when you start to approach that, well, my former impatience level said, hey man, first year, you got to win the whole thing. Hey man, that's the expectation. That's why you're here. And instead of looking at it like that, I looked at it as, hey man, we're going to take year one. We're going to implement as much as I think these guys can handle. We're going to compete, but they are still figuring out how our offense works. What's our team dynamics? What's it really like to be selfless? What is process, and how do you adapt and adopt to that mentality and that lifestyle? And then year two, and walking into year two, we're going to take a step on that tier. We're going to move up a step on the platform. I think looking at it in a 3-tier system and saying at the end of year 3, I feel like this thing should be in place. The entire scope of where I want to go. So then if you know that's where you want to be, then all I've done is work myself back down that chain and said, okay, then what's that look like today? And today for us, every single day, we meet in our classroom. We have a classroom right down the hallway from my office, and we meet as a team every day. We can talk baseball, but we can also talk about life, and we can talk about responsibility and accountability and leadership and being vulnerable and really help. We have a hero highlight hardship exercise we do where the players get to share in front of each other. And I want to do a lot more this upcoming year moving forward of our players presenting things in front of the team. And like I told you before, I'm not scared to talk, obviously. But my dad was a professional speaker, and how many of our athletes would say that public speaking is their number one fear? Well, then here, let's help address that, move past it, and eliminate it a little bit or comment. And so there's all these things I think we're when I talk about person, student, player, and that personal piece, if you recruit the right people and then you build them up into great people, you're going to luck yourself into winning some games. I know the winning is a byproduct, and I fully have embraced that mentality. And this is coming from the most competitive guy on this call, Phil. Like, I mean, I love you to death, but I'd forearm check you coming across the lane. Like that's why I don't play hoops anymore, because I'll get in fight with 18-year-old. I love to compete, but it's the same way when it comes to the baseball.
These Kentucky guys,
I'm telling you, we play rough defense in the lane, man. It's what Scott Padgett taught me that. Jamel Martinez taught me that. It's what you do. But,
yeah, whatever. Keep going.
But the whole thing I think our guys started to see is that, dude, you can be as competitive as you want, and all that stuff matters, and we build competitive people. But I now have a new appreciation for their journey. So that's what's different. It is less about who I'm trying to be today. It's more about who are they trying to be.
Yep.
Can they walk into awareness on some level where they start to see themselves differently, and something clicks and they're like, oh, wait a minute. That's what we're trying to push them towards. So I don't even know if I got even close to your question.
Well, you did. So this is so rich that I'm gonna sit here for a second.
Sorry.
No. It is so rich. So, what you're making me think about is how, and I even kind of frame the question this way, but I want any players or coaches that listen to this to get what you just said. And so I'm gonna kind of come at it again like this.
Love it.
So there's almost this sense, and I think this has been around sports for forever, that it's an either or proposition all the time. It's a dualistic thinking is the phrase that we use sometimes now. It's got to be that or that. So you're either building up or you're breaking down.
Right.
You are either competitive and winning at all cost, or you're soft and loving and emotive or something. Like, the way you answered my question was literally a rejection of that whole idea
100%.
that it's one or either or.
Yeah.
And you said there's a new way, there's a new day. And the new day is I will build you up and break you down at the same time, because it's all from my heart of love and commitment to you.
Yep.
And the same thing applies to, I will make you competitive, and I will make you know you are loved and valued and cared for, and I don't have a problem with emotions. And it's not an either or proposition. It's a both and. I had an athlete literally within the last couple of weeks that I have a deep affection for. We've been working together for quite a while. I'm involved with his team, his coach. And there was something in relationship to a session we were doing that was just not the way you handle stuff when you're committed and you're a pro.
Sure.
And this isn't a pro. This is a college person. But I had to go to that conversation afterwards and I remember thinking about this. I am going to build him up, and I'm going to speak hard truth at the same time. And that's where the conversation came out of. That's a challenge, because it's easier to just smack them with whatever, right?
They don't hear that. I think I heard this on a comedy CD maybe a long time ago from my dad is, I love you just the way you are, but I love you too much to let you stay the same.
Yeah.
And I take that mentality in with our guys is I always talk about meet us halfway. As a coach, I'm going to meet you halfway. As a player, meet me halfway. And when we meet there, I realize that I'm leaving myself behind, and you're going to leave yourself behind, and we're going to meet in the middle, man. We're going to figure this thing out. And so when we're able to do that, I'm telling you, and again, as you mentioned earlier, I think sometimes as coaches, we talk about this stuff. I mean, I haven't said one thing that maybe another coach hasn't said before, but I'll tell you this, man, I'll take the Pepsi challenge. I'm living it. And that's the difference. I think you can talk until you're blue in the face. This goes back to the first team meeting that I had with our team this past year. I said, hey man, I'm going to say all this and I'm going to say this and here, we're going to do it this way. We're going to look like this. We're going to do this. And I said, now, hey, all that, just like I told you, Phil, all that is talk. It's all talk. You and I are doing an interview and it's all talk. And coaches get interviewed every single day and they're on different Zooms and podcasts and they talk. The difference is when we finish this team meeting and then when we finish this Zoom call, this interview, Phil, I'm going to get back to walking because I walk what I talk every single day. I know that in the recruiting process, in this process, I'm not trying to sell. I'm just trying to educate. I'm just trying to inform you as to the environment we've created here. I'm not selling some pipe dream and, hey, this is where we want to go. And hey, in a couple years, it'll look like this. I'm telling you from a firsthand real life experience, this is what we have here at Georgia Gwinnett. This is who I am. This is how I talk. This is how I lead. This is how I suck. This is how I'm going to be really good. This is what I'm going to improve on. And I'm going to start walking it. That's the difference. And I think when you can approach it from a place with your kids of they know that if I have a adjustment, if I have an area for improvement on their end, if I have a criticism, they know that let me back up. You can't approach any of that if you don't have trust and love. I'm 100% bought in on this. Like you can't develop teamwork without trust. You can't help them understand responsibility without trust. You can't build ownership without trust. You can't have uncomfortable conversations without trust.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
So like if you don't have those two things, man, you can criticize until you're blue in the face. That ain't coaching. That's called being a dick. That's what that's called. That's not being a coach. You're just an asshole in the corner. That's who you become. And that's up to you to walk into that space, man. A lot of coaches work from there. Good for you. Where I think the difference is our guys realize because we've built trust and love. Sorry for the language. When we built trust and love, our guys realize that when I come to you and the spirit, the tone, the language, the message, everything is guided because I'm definitely not coming from a place of emotion. This is from rational thought. Is I'm helping them understand, hey man, we've got to make an adjustment here. If you're trying to go where you're trying to go, where you profess you're trying to go, we've got to make this adjustment. For you to be who I think the best version of you can be, then we've got to make this adjustment. And I'm talking it's eye to eye. It's arm around the other shoulder. It's a place where they go, hey man, coach, I get exactly where you're coming from and I appreciate it. I'll tell you this as an example. We get into quarantine and I look at our roster and I start to notice that we have a chance to recruit some pretty high-end players because of rosters and people changing and junior college kids can't go back and Division I transfers. And so I look at it and say, well, hey, that's a great opportunity for us. That's our level. Our level is built on transfer players, and we definitely need talent if we're trying to go where we're trying to go. But I also looked at our roster and I said, you know what? For these 10 players, they're not only not at the level in which they're going to help us win a national championship, but they're better served going to another program and competing in their program. Our program's different, man. It's just unique. It's a different animal, but they could go somewhere else. These kids can go play somewhere, but I can't keep everybody. We have a roster limit. Well, long story short, those are the most uncomfortable conversations as you can imagine.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
So I spent probably 4 weeks leading up to our exit meetings, staying up till about 1 or 2 in the morning, putting my kids to bed, putting my wife, to sleep and kissing everybody goodnight, going downstairs to my office and staring at my recruiting board. Looks a lot like this one. And I'm staring at it and I'm going, what am I going to say to him? What am I going to say to him? How am I going to address this with him? Man, he's going to be crushed. And I kept coming back to, if you're doing what's right for people, if you do have trust and love, then they're going to understand it. So short version is this: 10 out of 10. And again, I ain't talking. I'm walking here. 10 out of 10 with our staff on the Zoom call. Hey man, I've sat back and I'm looking at this roster and I'm looking at you and I'm looking at your skill set and I'm looking at your situation, and you are better served going to another program and competing for a job there. I'm not kicking you to the curb. I'm going to help you find a place to go play. Most coaches don't even offer that. I'm going to place you somewhere. I'm going to help you. I'm not going to throw you out. But I do want to make sure that you get to end your college career on a good note, not a note where you've never traveled, never played, and maybe not have a locker. And I'm going to tell you this, 10 out of 10, we end the call. Coach, that's a tough conversation to have, but I appreciate you being so honest with me. Coach, I trust you. If you think that's the decision that's best for me, we ended all 10 phone calls. Even some of them were a little disgruntled. But hope, Coach, I trust you. We ended every call with, I love you, dude. Coach, I love you too. If that doesn't tell you that our environment is working, that they get that even in our darkest days, man, I can be very to the point, but you understand where it's coming from. I've built a rapport that they know. I don't manufacture things, man. I'm right here. I'm right here all the time. But here's what I think, and here's where I think we need to address, and here's what I think we should do moving forward. And Coach, I trust you and I love you. And that to me, we have a great platform we're working on that I think we can build into year two. But yeah, so I think you can. I think you can go at a player with an area for improvement. But if you haven't built trust and love, that whole conversation won't be heard the way in which you want it to.
Well, you're so articulate, Sheets, in how you're describing this. It is the, I'll say it this way. There are currencies of influence and leadership in young people's lives today.
Mm-hmm.
And you've named a bunch of them already, and those currencies build equity, and out of that equity, you can lead.
Yeah.
And those currencies are trust and love for sure, vulnerability and honesty.
There you go.
Okay. And I will always work for you, servanthood. We started out with that phrase. I just named 5 pieces of currency that I know for a fact work in the lives, not only of young people, they work in the lives of human beings.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Because that's what it means to actually be interactive, connective people. So players out there, anybody that might listen to this, coaches out there, get into this space of find a coach who will say, this is who I expect you to be, and this is who I'm going to help you become. And let's lean into that space. Okay. So, my focus, Sheets, is really just to pivot a little bit, although I don't know if I think we're just circling around the same topics.
Sure.
I want to pivot a little bit to more like not just the relational side, but the actual sport. I know you really love the nuts and bolts and all that stuff too. So my focus is really on what I like to call human skills. I didn't make up that phrase, but I love that. Human skills really being things we apply to all parts of life, but in sports they're prevalent, like handling pressure or managing emotions or adapting and adjusting to the unexpected or learning focus and concentration when there's distractions everywhere. Those kinds of pieces. And you've been at this game both as a player. I know you played college baseball, you've coached, and you've been on coaching coaches, and now you're back in the head coaching seat. What would you say at this point in your career what would you say is a differentiator on the human skills side, on the mental, emotional stuff, that separates elite college players from good college players, not just the physical tools, but on the human skills side, what's the differentiator? And here's the qualifier that really shows up in the highest pressure situations. Like, what are the elite guys figuring out or have developed that when they approach those moments that everybody is looking for something to throw up in, what what are they doing to approach those moments that lean into that pressure? They want the ball. We'll go back to basketball. They want the ball in the last 3 seconds, as opposed to the other players who are hoping something good happens.
Sure.
Or maybe even running
right.
from being involved.
I don't know, Coach. My hamstrings feel a little tight. I don't know if I can do that. That's a fantastic question. I think that one thing that separates those elite players is how they manage for baseball. How do they manage the 15 seconds between each pitch?
Ooh, yes.
Because that's where the mental game lives. Like it's not throwing a good breaking ball. It's not spotting a fastball. It's not being on time. It is when it's ball or strike, when it's safe or out, when it's take or umpire call. How do you manage that? And I think the elite of the elite, to even further that, is and we talk about this in our program, we try to help players rewire themselves to a better default system.
Oh, I love that language. Yeah. That is awesome.
And I've had to do this as a coach. Like I said, I think a lot of times I spent it in an emotional territory and living and dying on every single pitch, and every umpire needed to know I was in the dugout. And like, our players laugh like, Coach, man, you stand in one spot and you just kind of hang out against the wall, and you don't, like, I let off one fist pump. It's because I knew a home run was coming. And I looked at the guy next to me. I said, he's getting ready to hit a home run. You know this, right? Because I could feel the game turning that way. And he goes, nah. And I said, just watch. And it was a big moment. And we go up and I fist pump. And it was the only fist pump I let out because I don't try to be in that emotional space, because I know I'm not a clear thinker there. So I think that's the same way for our players. If I'm trying to be an elite level coach, I want players to not play the game in that emotional place. Now, that's tough to do when you're ultra competitive, and it's tough to do when it's mano-a-mano, and it's tough to do, especially in our game. It's an individual, setting wrapped up into a team sport. So it is pitcher versus hitter. And both those things can take your emotions down another way. Plus there's a third guy that has a say in everything. And so you just start to see that. And of course we work on this. We spend time in mindfulness training every single day, helping them navigate what's going on either through visualization or what's going on with self-affirmations, but also what happens when it's silent, because it's not really silent, is it? It's no different than you and I having this conversation. I'm doing all the talking, but you're having a conversation between your ears. Now, hopefully it sounds like this. God, this is really good. Oh, yeah, say it again. Oh, yeah, one more time. Man, that's really good. You're still
inside my head. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I know it is, because I know I'm crushing this interview right now. So, like, you're having this inner dialogue, and just as the way I am, I'm talking it through, going, okay, man, hey, get to the point. Hey, you need to go this way. Hey, this is the route you need to take. Hey, here's the story you want to circle back to. It's the same way as our listeners right now. They're listening, either going, hey, man, this is pretty good, or I'm not sure what he meant by that, or hey, man, that's a really thick Kentucky accent. They're having a dialogue. Well, our players in the box, when the right arm goes up, there's a dialogue happening. And I think as coaches, we got to help them learn how to navigate that, because if they're left to their internal default system, usually that's based on emotion. And a lot of times for 18-year-olds and even 22s, it's based in immature emotion. Now it's slumped shoulders. It's defeatist. It's, now what? Now I'm looking at the coach from the sign, but I'm still mad that you made that call. I'm not really paying attention to what we're trying to do offensively. I'm definitely not worried about the timing of letting my guy at first base get out to his lead, because I'm in emotional state. So the 15 seconds, the default, the change we make is, hey, it happened. Yeah, it sucks, and you're not very good today, but you know what? Big deep breath. Let me get back into the flow here. It's only one strike. It doesn't change my bat. What's coach want me to do? Let me let my guy get out. I'll take one more big breath just to make sure I'm set, and now I'm back in the box. And they manage that moment. And that's what I think the best of the best do. Now, all that Phil said, we talk about in our program, moments are just moments. There are no big moments, because if there are no big moments, that means there are no small moments. Moments are moments. So if you, Phil, Sheets, Hunter, Livingston, you all have the choice to make any scenario you want. You can build it up as big as you want, whatever you want to do. Hey, we're playing Toccoa. Hey, we're playing Lewis and Clark. Hey, we're playing Southeastern. Oh my God, dude, you should have seen this place. We're getting ready to open up the year. We're 4 in the country and Southeastern's 3 in the country. And everybody's like, hey man, number 3 in the country. Oh man, you must be. It's just another game. They're just a good team. It's just a game. What happens if we lose? Do we have to shut our season down? Like, because it was a big game? How do you build a team up and then expect them, if things don't go their way, to respond? You can only go so high. You're going to fall as low as you went up top. Like, you have to live in the centered space. And so our guys start to realize, hey man, every game's a game. Every game's a moment. It doesn't matter. You can build it up. Crowd starts getting up. Dude, we stay right here. We try to stay there. Because I think if you do that, you allow yourself to live in that comfortable place. You don't allow yourself to get so amped up, now you're uncomfortable. Get so amped up that you can't control your breathing. Or you fail, and again, you'll fall to the depth of how high you were up, and now you want to throw your bat or slam your helmet, and now you're in an emotional place. I just think you stay away from that if you stay in centered. I really do.
Wow, man. So this is, my goodness. This is why I've wanted to talk to you for a while.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. I love talking it out, man, because I think every time you get a chance to talk it through, a new point hits and a new thought and a new way of describing it. I love talking it through, man. It makes me better too.
You fire thoughts in my head, which make me want to just keep the conversation going. So I'm literally putting the governor on myself here. I got to pull back. So something I do with every interview, Sheets, is I do what I call the back nine.
Okay.
And the back nine is, comes from the golf world. The Masters doesn't start till the back nine on Sunday. So
sure.
In that regard, I guess, I don't know, somehow maybe we're getting ready to go into the good stuff.
I'm just getting warmed up, man. I'm just stretching it out right now. Yeah, let's go. That's my bullpen.
So I've got 9 questions. The idea here is they're kind of just first response kind of things. You can give a little explanation if you want to. Okay. You don't have to if you don't want to. And I gave you no prep. I gave you no idea what these were, and I will promise you I individualize these for you.
It's awesome. I can't wait.
Okay.
That's right.
Here we go. Number 1. This is literally the thing I want to know the most. Favorite basketball player when you were a kid growing up in Kentucky?
Magic Johnson, baby. That's my dude, through and through.
Strong. I was in high school watching a little black and white TV on a UHF channel, picking up a distant signal from Indiana State when Larry Bird was a senior.
There it is. Yeah. My favorite Kentucky player was Anthony Epps because I really wanted to be able to shoot like he could.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
But I couldn't. I tried. I couldn't. I was more of a passer.
Question number 2, somebody you've interviewed, you've been doing this whole interview game for a long time. Somebody you've interviewed, again, just whatever comes to mind, because there could be, if you thought about it, somebody you've interviewed who just made you laugh way more than you had any idea you were going to laugh before the interview started.
Man, those are welcome too. Butch Chaffin from Cookeville High School, one of the sweetest men, one of the best baseball minds, but he has that Southern Tennessee charm. And he has those, as you start talking and he can spin on a dime into some, he's as cute as a butterfly sandwich or something. You're like, what does that even mean? But he had so many of those, and he's become one of my best friends. It was an awesome interview when we first met.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun when you're the interviewer and you're trying to keep from crying.
Sure.
And trying to figure out.
Sure.
Because you're laughing so hard trying to figure out where we go next. It is a good place to be. Okay, third question, and you might have answered this already when you were talking about your coach when you were, I think you said when you were 12. But one of the things that I love about what I get to do and the way I think about it, which I think is similar between mental skills coaching and what you do as a head coach, is I really believe there is something special and unique in every single person. I think God made us in his image, and we all have inbred dignity, which I think is very important always, maybe more important in the modern conversations we're having in our society. But I love hearing people describe who the person was who saw value and potential in them and called it out. like spoke it into
Mm-hmm.
some kind of awareness
Yep.
that you came to see it and believe it like you never had before? Who was that turning person for you?
Gosh, dude, you were pulling at some stuff here. Um, that was definitely my little league coach. And
Okay.
up until that point, I played right field and I hit in the 9 hole. That's who I was. I was that kid for every little league team because I didn't care. Baseball was a hobby. I played wiffle ball and I
Yeah.
played some baseball. I didn't play a couple years because I really didn't care. I loved basketball. I was going to be a basketball star. And he first practice, he goes, "Come here." And this is a rough dude. Bud Ritchie had skin like leather. He was a mailman at that time. We didn't know anything about SPF 100. Like he wore no sunscreen. He had leather skin. He always had a chew in. And he sat me down. I remember him putting his arm around me and he said, "Hey man, I've watched you for a lot of years. You literally are better than any coach has given you credit for. But I don't think anyone's had enough patience to teach you." And I said, "What do you got?" He goes, "Well, I want you to play first base, man. You're the biggest kid in our team. Why aren't you playing first base?" I'm like, "I don't know. I've never played it." He goes, "Man, you can swing." He goes, "But I need you to swing hard every time. And if you swing hard every time, I'm going to hit you in the 4 hole." And I'm like, "I've only hit in the 9." He's like, "Yeah, you're going to hit in the 4." And I'm dead serious. We sat in State Stadium in the first base dugout with his arm around me. And he goes through this and he goes, "And what I'm going to tell you is the other pieces on this team, if you become who I think you can become, I want you to be vocal because I played against you and you're the kid in right field screaming his head off
Wow.
because you can't stop talking.
Wow.
I want you to lead this team
Yeah.
from first base." He goes, "If you do that, this team's going to maximize its potential." We went 19-1 and we won the Little League championship that year. And I promise you, he spoke it into. He literally took me as a kid and he taught the game. He taught how to run hard and what part of the bag to hit and all that. He taught the gray areas. Like I remember him explaining to us, and this was my 13-year-old year. He explained to us that, "Hey man, if things get rough on the field, if one of your teammates is in a spot and you don't empty the bench, I'm kicking you off this team." We're 13 years old. And I remember going, "He's serious." And he goes, "But you guys think I'm like promoting fistfights. I'm promoting that's your teammate. You go
Yes.
protect your teammate."
Oh,
He
yeah.
taught that stuff. And I'm telling you, those are lessons that I
Oh,
pull
come
upon
on.
every day,
Yeah.
man, from Bud Ritchie, my
Yeah.
dude.
Wow. So that is such a fantastic answer, man. Again, it just is
Fire me
such,
up.
that's such deep heart stuff to me. Like I said, I really do believe spiritually, I think God has put that value in us. But here's the other thing I believe on that. I believe that we are wired to have that mirrored back to us
Yes.
before we understand it.
Yeah.
And I think God mirrors that back to us. But I also think we need people in our lives. So coaches out there, even adults of any kind,
Sure.
anybody that's leading anybody, like see the value and don't just go, "Oh, you're important. Oh, you matter." Like
No.
give them specifics that they can begin to see.
You know what I'm changing my title to, at least within our program? I'm not the head coach. I'm the chief inspiration officer. That's who I am. I am going to believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. I'm
Oh
going
yeah.
to inspire and motivate on a daily basis. I'm going to inject and infect you with a positive attitude that is resilient to things, to adversity. That's who I'm going to be.
Man, oh
Yeah.
man. Okay. Well, I got to have you back for a podcast
Sure.
just on that.
Sure.
So
Sure.
we're gonna narrow it down next time.
I love it.
All right, number 4. One, we've been in the COVID thing, and
Mhm.
you're in Georgia where things are advanced on
Mhm.
the reopening level.
Sure.
But when you think back about this season, and obviously this was unique, and it'll be
Mhm.
something everybody remembers for the whole rest of their life. But I'm curious, and I don't know that I'd ask just anybody this, but you are like, bring on the question. Like you are
Sure.
always like saying, bring it on. What's something during COVID that was a new learning for you? I'm into forever
Mm,
learning, and I know you're a like keep growing, keep learning
sure.
kind of coach. What was it? What has been a new learning for you? A topic or an idea that you're digging into or chewing on, or you're motivated, like you're going after it more than what you had before COVID ever started, because you're like, I gotta get better at that. I gotta figure that out. I gotta learn about that.
All right. So I'll stay in transparency mode. Um, I am working through a recognition that at times I need validation from other people. And that is, for me, is working towards at the root of true self-confidence. Um, I'm a confident dude, but at times I do value the validation. I value the retweet. I value the like. And I think a lot of
Yep.
that does come from, the fact I've spent a lot of time on social media, and some of that you can't help but infect the way that you think and the way that where your emotions land. But I also think it also comes back to a lot of things. Comes back to coming from a divorced family. It comes from a mom that wasn't around. It comes from a lot of those things. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I probably haven't spent much time there at all. And I have one of the best athletic directors in the country who does success and life coaching, and him and I spent a number of times on the phone talking through some of that, and him opening my mind to it and feeling vulnerable enough to explore it a little bit and start to realize that if I can dig in there and start to control some of those thoughts, I'm a much better leader in front of these guys. I'm a much better head coach or peer to our assistant coaches that are on staff, and that's who I really want to be. And for my wife at home, I can be a much better communicator, much better husband, much better father.
For sure.
And
Yes,
that's where I'm really
absolutely.
starting to explore, spend some time there.
My goodness, man, what a fascinating answer.
Hmm.
And even more so, thank you for the depth that you
Sure.
unplugged with that. That's inspiring and challenging, and means a lot that you would use this forum to push
Yeah.
that out there,
Sure.
man. Thank
Sure.
you.
Absolutely.
So maybe a little lighter question. I don't know.
Okay. Sure.
So number 5,
Uh,
in 2015, you were an associate scout for the Atlanta Braves,
mhm.
right? So, what was one thing you took away from that experience that was just fun? That was just like, wow, that was a lot of fun.
Well, I still am actually. So
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm still currently fifth year with the Braves. I did, and I still do. I do more like special assignment work. So like, hey, I want you to go watch this particular kid. So like, the coolest piece for me was one of the first times I went out. Um, my area guy sent me to watch these two high school kids, and he said it's a pitcher and a catcher. I'm really interested in the pitcher. I just want to get your thoughts, and that's the way he left it. He didn't, hey, fill out this card. Hey, do this, do that. I just want to get your thoughts. And I watched the kid, and I watched the catcher, and I really like the pitcher, and I'm watching velos and all that stuff. But I just started taking some notes, and I started paying attention. And so I call him on the drive home. It's at Orange High School in North Carolina. I'm on the drive home, and he goes, "What'd you think?" And I said, I'm very impressed. I'm impressed because of this, this, and this. And I saw this adjustment, and his velos are here. You don't need to see him yet. I still think he has some room to climb. He's 92 today. He's got 94, 95 in his arm, his first start. But I'm really excited about this, this, and this. And he goes, great. Would you draft him in the fourth round or the second round? And that to me was the coolest moment
Okay.
of my career, is where I went, oh, I'm going to change this kid's life. And I said, I'll be honest with you, man. If there's another arm that looks like him, and if he hits a 4 or 5, then I'd like to see him. But if I'm where I'm at right now, I draft him in the second round. We took him in the second round. So that to me was really cool. Is I got a chance to be more of a guy that, hey, we're trying to decide, do we let him slip down a few rounds, or is he a guy we have to have? And to be in that part of that decision making process was a lot of fun. Yeah,
Man, what a cool story.
yeah,
All right, number 6. I think you've got 2 kids,
I
right?
do. Yes, sir.
Cooper, a
And
son Cooper, and a daughter Chelsea.
Chelsea's
What are
my
the
wife.
ages? Oh,
Um,
Chelsea's your wife.
yeah,
What's the daughter's name?
Charlie Joe, CJ. Yeah.
How old are your kids?
So Coop is 4, and CJ's getting ready to turn 2 in July.
Favorite activity your favorite activity you're doing with your kids these days.
This isn't like crazy. We have a long hallway in our house, and we all run the hallway. And I know it doesn't sound like much, but like Cooper's turned it into this really
Yes.
fun activity for him at 4. And sometimes he likes to run, shaking his head back and forth. He's got long curly hair. Sissy just tries to keep up with us, so she's always like a step behind, and then she spins on a dime and has to come back. We run the hall every day. That's just something we
Oh,
do, and it seems like I said, it's not big or extravagant. It's free, but like we run the hallway, and they have so much fun. As basic as that is, doing it. That's the activity. Yeah, that's what we do.
man, they'll never forget it. My
Yeah,
oldest son's 30 right now, and he said on a podcast the other day. The podcast was talking about childhood memories, and his favorite childhood memory involved a little Nerf hoop and a little game we developed when he
sure.
was growing up as a little kid in the living room, where we would move furniture out of the way and my wife would
Oh yeah,
turn her head and not watch for a while. And
oh
we
yeah.
would
See, I haven't. I've got a hoop put up downstairs, and I honestly I haven't pushed Cooper, into any sport. I don't mess with any of that. We're gonna figure it out. But I've got this hoop, and
fun.
I've got the basketballs, and I'm ready for him to. And he shoots at it a little every once in a while, but I'm waiting for him to really dive into it. So I go, hey, yeah, let's go shoot hoops. How about you and I go shoot hoops? Yeah, I'm not pushing it on him yet.
All right, that's so cool, man. So, any number seven, any habit or routine, maybe even bordering on superstition, that you do before or during a game as a coach, or you're just not ready to go? Like you got to do this. It's your thing to be ready to go.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good. I got too many. I've
Just give us one.
Well, and you know how coaches are, man. Like it's where I put my lineup card, and I've got this is stupid. I've got these 4 pins, and it's black, green, black, green. I got to put them in a certain order in a certain spot.
Yes.
I got to have at least 5 Jolly Ranchers in my back pocket. I stand in a certain spot. I've got all those things, man, and I don't act like they're a big deal, but they're a very big deal.
See, we're getting to the good stuff now. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, it's
after
ridiculous.
after all this time, that was the gold right there.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
All right. And again, I'll give you a chance to just kind of boil this. So,
Sure.
it might be a phrase or a concept, but the best advice from any of your coaches
Hmm.
growing up that you ever got that has helped your career in baseball?
I think I got it from my high school head coach. I had 3 head coaches in high school, and the one I had my senior year, and I love the other 2, but the one, Coach McDonald, I would literally, pardon my, this is my country thinking, I would stab a stranger for my high school head coach. Um, he is my dude, and he coached me as hard as anybody in the country. He made me lose 30 pounds, and he changed a lot of things for me. But one of the things that he gave me a really cool compliment. Made the all district team, and he put in the paper that I had a very unique ability to balance, basically being serious and having a good time. And I remember I followed up with him, and I said, "What did you mean by that?" He goes, "Man, you've got a personality that when you dial it up, everyone else is forced to dial it up with you. And then when you have the opportunity to throw in a joke or deflate the group, like, and again, it's like when you start to feel we're playing the number 5 team in the state, and everybody's getting all amped up, and I would come in and tell a joke to deflate everybody and get us back to laughing and cutting up and going and playing the game. And I never forgot that. I've always tried
Yeah.
to bring that into relationships and coaching. Is, again, I think it's all that coming back to centered thought. I
Yeah.
just didn't realize what it was, but that's a compliment I've always taken with me.
What a cool answer,
Yeah.
man. My goodness, that is a winner. All right, number 9. I ask everybody this.
Okay.
My favorite question. So, if a player on your team were going to say a word or a phrase that everybody on the team would know they were trying to imitate Coach Sheets, what would be a word or a phrase that you are so associated
Oh
with
my gosh,
that they would know your player was pulling a Sheets on them?
man, there are probably way too many. Um, that's a great question. I hate to say I don't have an answer, but I know I have things that I say a lot. I don't. I'd love to dive into their player group chat, like we have like a team group chat, because I guarantee it's riddled with them. Um,
So
Man,
there you go. So I'll let you off the hook if you promise me this, that after we're done, you got to
yes,
shoot your guys a
yes.
message and say, "Hey man, this dude asked me this question on podcast, and for the
I'm
first time
as
in
soon as
Sheets'
we
life,
hang
I
up,
was
I was
stumped."
speechless. I'm going straight to that group and I'm saying, hey, I need to know. And I think, but like, I love it because like invitation is the greatest form of flattery. Like, I
Yeah. Oh
love it.
yeah.
And I
Oh
told our
yeah.
guys, I said, hey, I know that someone in this group does a really good Sheets impression. But just so you know, I can impersonate every single one of you. I know all your tricks of the trade, but I'm going to see what they say. I'm
Yeah.
interested in that myself.
Well, there you go. I finally, at the very end, I finally nailed the
No
question that
doubt.
you couldn't
That's
couldn't answer.
awesome. That's a great question.
Well, thank you, man. This has been so much fun. Tell the listeners
Uh,
just a little bit. How can they find you? You're all over everywhere, but give them just a little bit of how they can find you online.
First and foremost, Phil, I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope you do
Uh,
call upon me for a round two. This has been I always
no
think
doubt.
anytime that you can talk with someone that asks really thoughtful questions and loves the depth in which you can go, it's going to make me better talking it through. So I appreciate that opportunity. I'm definitely walking out of here a much better coach and
Uh,
leader and thinker. I appreciate that. For anyone listening, I am extremely accessible, so much so it drives my wife Chelsea crazy. But you can reach me on social media at Coach Sheets 3 on all the platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. My cell phone is 502-767-7680. I put that out because I mean it. Because if you do want to reach out, if I can provide value or if I can help answer a question in any way, I'm willing to do it. And then you can shoot me an email at sheets, SHEETS, at ggc.edu. Go check out the Dugout Chatter podcast. And if I can help you out, please do reach out.
Man, oh man, so much fun. I am way better because of this conversation, and you are a fun interview because you are thoughtful, and even beyond the thoughtfulness, you are through and through true and
I
honest to a
appreciate
fault,
that, man.
man. So,
Yeah, to a fault, for sure. That's for sure.
I really appreciate it, and we will do a round two down the road for sure. I
Perfect.
cannot wait to connect with you again. I think I skimmed the surface on about every topic. I would love to go even deeper with you on.
We
So
will. We will.
thank you so much, man, and have a good one.
You too, Phil. Thank you so much for the opportunity.